Hey everyone, welcome to Insights by Rish. This is the second video from series Machine Learning using PySpark. In the previous tutorial, we saw some basics of machine learning using PySpark. We saw that how we can load the dataset using PySpark, how we start the Spark session, and some basic data analysis using PySpark. If you haven't watched that video, I will provide the link of the video in the description. Do check that. Now in this tutorial, we can see how we can add the columns, how we can drop them, as well as how we can rename them. Let me also inform you, we do the same thing that we are doing using PySpark in the pandas as well, so that the comparison of both proves us a better understanding. First, we will load the dataset using pandas. Now that we have loaded our dataset using pandas, we will also start the Spark session and we'll load that dataset using PySpark as well. So we have successfully loaded our Spark session. Now we will load the dataset. So we have also loaded our dataset using PySpark now. If you want to know how we load the dataset and how we start the Spark session, do watch my previous video. I've covered all the basics there. Now coming back to this, first we'll see how we can add the columns. Now definitely we can't add a new column from scratch into which we need to fill all the new values for every existing instance, because that will be a very hectic job, and in case the dataset size is too large, then we can't do that. What we can do here by adding columns, what we mean basically, if we want to modify the values of the existing column, then we can modify that values and store them in a new column. Let us consider the salary column. If the salary column consists the salary of all employees, and let us say that we want to add one more column here of salary after 5 years, and consider that the salary of employees have been incremented by 10,000 rupees. So we want to add a new column there of salary after 5 years, into which we want to store the new salary of the employee, that is every salary incremented by 10,000 rupees. So we can do that. What we will do, we will use the with column function. So p_df, we will use the with column function, and then we will give the title of our new column, let's say salary after 5 years. Then we will perform the operations. So the salary column is from our PySpark Dataframe, and we want to add 10,000 rupees into it because the salary is incremented by 10,000 rupees. Now let us show the data. So you can see the new column is successfully added of salary after 5 years, and every salary is incremented by 10,000 rupees. So in this way we can add a new column by manipulating the existing values from an existing column. But we cannot generally add a new column from scratch into which we need to fill the values for every existing instance. So this is how you add a column in PySpark. The next agenda that we have here is dropping the columns. Now let us consider the pandas data frame first. This is the data frame that we have in pandas, which is basically same. And if we want to drop a column from here, let us say that we want to drop the name and age column from the pandas data frame, we use the drop method. What we do, we write df.drop. Then we provide the list of columns that we want to drop. Let us say I want to drop name and age. We also provide it an attribute of in place is equal to true, so that we want to make our changes permanent and not just temporary. Now let us display our data frame, the pandas data frame, and you can see the name and age columns are successfully deleted. If you want to do same thing in PySpark, we again use the drop method, but in a different way. So let us say, one thing you need to keep in mind, we don't have this in place is equal to true in PySpark. In pandas, whenever we want to make any changes permanent and not just temporary, we have two ways. Either we can assign the entire thing to a new data frame, like something like this, without the in place, or another way is you don't need to do that. You just need to write the in place is equal to true here. This is the second way of making the changes permanent. But in PySpark, you don't have in place is equal to true. The only option you have in PySpark is you need to assign all the changes to a new data frame. So what we can do here, let us say we will create again a new data frame into which with the same name, of course, and into which what we will do here is we'll write the p_df dot drop method again, and we'll provide the name of column which we want to drop. Let us say I want to drop the column of salary after 5 years. And let me run that. So let us again display it. So now you can see the column is successfully deleted. Now this was when we just have to delete a single column. What if you want to delete a list of columns? When we are performing one-hot encoding, in that case we create a list of all string columns, and then we pass that list of columns. So in same way, if you want to pass the list of columns to be dropped, then you can't just write it in this way. So consider that you have a list called list, that is the list of your columns, and in the list you have name, age, and salary. Now this is your list to be deleted. What if you want to pass the entire list to be dropped? In that case, you can't do something like this, like p_df is equal to p_df dot drop method, and then you just can't provide like this, something like this, call list. See, you will get an error, that is, it will say argument call should be a column or string, but it got list. This is because your drop function can only accept either a column or a string, but it can't accept list, and here you are trying to pass a list. So if in any rare case you want to pass a list of columns to be dropped, you need to precede the list with an asterisk in this way. And now when you run that, if you again try to display the column, let me show it. Now you can see the list of columns are successfully deleted. So anytime if you want to pass a list of columns to be dropped, you need to precede it with an asterisk. So this was about dropping the columns. The next thing that we have here in the agenda is renaming the columns. Now let us first see how we rename the columns in Pandas. So this is our data set, and let us say that we want to rename the column ID to something like employee ID. So to rename that, what we use the rename method, and into that we write columns to be renamed. Then we put a curly brace, and into that we write the name of the existing column, that is ID, and the new column, let us say employee ID. And of course we mention in place is equal to true. Now when we display the data frame, again you can see the column has been renamed to employee ID. This is how we basically rename the columns in Pandas. But what if we want to rename the columns in PySpark? We want to do something similar in PySpark. We don't use the rename method basically there. We use a with column rename method there, a slightly different way. Now in PySpark, as I said previously, we don't have in place is equal to true method. We need to assign it to a new data frame. So in that case, what we will do, we will use with column rename method. The first one, the second one, and in that we will provide the list, the name of existing column that we want to rename. Let us say here we have ID, and the new name that I want is let's say student ID. Let me run that. Now when we again display the column, you can see that the ID column has now successfully renamed to student ID. So in this way you can rename the columns in PySpark. So in today's video, we just had 3 agendas to add the columns, drop them, as well as rename them. And I think we have covered all 3 of that. So that's it for the video. Thank you. In the upcoming videos, we will move towards more advanced part.